So I'm here to discuss nutrition. So what are the things that we need to live, right? Go ahead, click on that. Macronutrients. Someone want to give me examples of macronutrients?
Protein.
Perfect. That's one of the three.
Carbohydrates.
Carbs, right? Those are the bad guys now, right? And then fats. Yeah, and those are always been the bad guys, right? So I'm getting some winces, so hopefully we have some different points of view. If not the bad guys, at least saturated fat is the bad guy, right? We can all agree there that saturated fat is bad. Maybe. Mike out and get nothing from you. Yeah, Josh, what do you think? You're not so sold?
No.
Good. Good, I like that. So we're getting some open minds here. If we go ahead and click again, so then we have micronutrients, examples of those, perhaps, right? There's only 2, so we just did 3. You guys know these. Boom, there it is, right there. Thank you, sir. You get a gold star for that. Yes. So vitamins and minerals. Does anyone actually know what a micro, or vitamins and minerals, what roles they actually play in nutrition? Again, I'm trying to be interactive. Right? We know we need them, right? They're on the side of the cereal box, right? So the biggest role I'll say that micronutrients play is as coenzymes. And anyone a fan of chemistry? Oh, okay, okay. Could you venture or give a good explanation of exactly what a coenzyme is?
Really rusty. Coenzymes help cellular functions, like they help cells carry out functions that they need to carry out to grow and do things for our bodies. So is that
Yes.
on a very cellular level?
You're on the right path there, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, you guys chime in, you're the health professionals here, so I want to kind of rely on you a little bit. Yes, yes, okay. So we'll this is nice. I'm trying to gauge kind of where we're at, so I'm not redundant in my presentation. I don't want to say things that haven't already been established. So if we back up, micronutrients are coenzymes. And what you were talking about, facilitating reactions, right? That's what an enzyme does, right? So if we exist in this room right now, there's a few principles at work, laws that exist. One is diffusion. Thank you. Ooh, I had to throw that one out. All right, so in diffusion, the law of diffusion, it basically states that molecules are going to exist in a random apparatus. Kind of enthalpy, entropy. We talk a little bit about those kinds of laws of chemistry. What an enzyme does is it helps facilitate these reactions, so it hastens them up. Okay? And the body has multiple forms of enzymes to basically expedite those processes, and that's what actually gives us an ability to function today and be efficient. So what vitamins and minerals do then, they're the helpers and enzymes. So they kind of sit into those enzymes and then make them active. It's a very controlled mechanism so that we're actually getting the reactions at a time when we need to with the foods that we need to. And then there's kind of an upstream, downstream flow of this that controls whether or not the ability of them functions very well. So this is definitely a big pet peeve of mine. But most energy drinks, what is one of the vitamins that they really tout them contain? Yes, thank you. So the B vitamins, right? If you're not familiar with that, like you look at a 5-hour energy drink or something of that nature, then they always say it gives you energy. And I'm like, no it doesn't. The caffeine gives you energy. The caffeine is a stimulant, yes. And what's funny about that, that's a whole other tangent, I won't go there. Right, but it actually blocks the downregulation. It's not a stimulant. So, fun fact for you. But it doesn't give you any. The macronutrients really are what gives us energy, right? That's what really provides the fuel for our day-to-day life. What it is, the cellular currency of a body. you guys should know this one. I'm picking on the trainers here. The cellular currency of a cell, we'll say. Yes! What is it? Say it loudly.
ATP.
Thank you. Yes, ATP. That is what actually drives proteins, right? Everyone loves protein. What do we know about protein?
Builds muscle.
Right? Yeah. Well, that's what muscle's made of, right? Is protein. And so if we take in protein, essentially that's going to help us build muscle. What's interesting, kind of a fun fact beforehand, before they mapped the genome, they actually thought that proteins were the genome, which is really interesting, I thought. And it turns out that these are actually more complex than our actual DNA. Like there's only 4 really nucleotides that we deal with, A, C, G, and T. There it is. It's been a while. Whereas amino acids, we have about 16 different ones. So I'm a big fan of proteins. What do we know about proteins other than they build muscle? Right? Sources. Meat. Thank you. What's that? Things with eyes. I like that. I like that. That's good. What else do we have? I mean, you can look at the photo here, right? I'm giving you guys. Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, nuts. We also have legumes. With the other big thing, eggs, right? A few things that I like to really consider when I go into nutrients. Is it a source of protein or is it contained protein? Right? I think, gosh, this was a presentation Clark and a dietitian did a while ago, and I was like, oh man, they are really spot on with this. Thank you. Because a lot of times, people will say, oh, I got protein, I ate some beans, right? Click one more for me. Ah, dang it. Yeah, no, there we go. So click again. All right, so we got legumes, right? Okay, so what is this? Pinto beans, okay? So yes, we do have 8 grams of protein in, how much is it? Half cup of legumes. So in a half cup we have 8 grams of protein. But if we look up the list, we also see carbohydrates, right? And that's at almost 3 times the amount of protein. So yeah, and what do we often eat with beans? Rice, right? Or we'll put it in a tortilla or something else. So we're looking at a pretty carbohydrate dense food then, really, when we're thinking we're getting our protein. So it's just one of those things I really like to talk about. The other one you gave was peanuts, right? Nuts. Right? Yeah. So click one more for me. So here we have peanuts, okay? So what do we have? 38 grams here in 1 cup, but we also have like 24 grams of carb and 72 grams of fat.
That's a cup of peanuts.
1 cup. 1 cup. Yeah. So yeah, and they're also very calorically dense. Yes. Yeah. So I do love nuts, but I do try to limit them to like yeah. You have to be careful because they're extremely nutrient dense.
What I like to kind of communicate to my clients, if I'm trying to get them to eat more protein, is pick a protein dominant food.
Yes, I think that's an awesome choice. Absolutely, yeah, because then you're forcing them to really look at this specifically, right? And that then really limits our sources of protein. Really, I mean, you could do like a soy-based thing too. I'm not going to go on that tangent. There's a whole, yeah, we're not going to go there today. I'm trying to keep this relatively simple. The only other thing I'll discuss with that is bioavailability too. So, you guys familiar with bioavailability? Yes. I kind of have like polarized sides here. It's trainers, clients. Okay, so have you guys heard of bioavailability? Okay. So we look at protein, yes, like here we have 38 grams, that's awesome. But there's a caveat to that, right? We're not a nut. We are us. And so how well can we actually utilize that protein is contingent on how well it resembles us, I'll say. There's really a much more complex system or structure to that. So like eggs actually have 100% bioavailability. Of all protein sources, if you look at the amount of protein that is in an egg, you will actually be able to assimilate all of that into some sort of structure, form, enzyme, whatever. I won't get into the other caveats of eggs either today. I'll save that for your reading. Because really those to me are more about values, not necessarily about facts. I think it's more. But bioavailability of eggs is 100. The next one down the list is going to be beef, actually, oddly enough. It's very high bioavailability. Then fish, and then poultry, and then we get to our vegetable sources of protein in the terms of bioavailability. So even though we look at something like this, we see 38 grams, really we're looking at about maybe 60-70% bioavailability. So of that, really we're only actually assimilating, half of 38, that's what is that, 19, right? So probably about 20-24 grams. Which is pretty substantial when you consider that they're trying to consume this as their protein source. And there's also 72 grams of fat. And then you could always get into the whole caloric density component too, right? 128 grams, right? Okay. Did everyone get their fill on protein? Good? Okay. I definitely feel like this is the most controversial macronutrient of them all. Would everyone agree with me when it comes to that? Yeah. In most recent terms, we'd say so. So, gosh, I think the biggest thing is that there's a big diverse form. This is, I love this, right? Healthy fats. Healthy fats. Because we've clearly established that there are healthy and unhealthy fats. In my mind, I'll be really frank right up front. A lot of this is my own personal professional opinion. It may diverge a bit from what the general consensus is. So I always want to make that a point. These are consensuses that I've came up to, right, in my research. I don't want anyone to think that what I say is the truth. I think everyone should develop their own. So when this says healthy fats, this is someone else's definition of such, and we see like fish, we have our oils, and then I don't like that they actually have an avocado there. That's cool. And we're getting a little more progressive. Right, so in my mind, there's only one unhealthy fat. Can anyone guess what that one might be?
Trans fat.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, the one that we created, essentially. No, they do occur naturally, and actually during the cooking process. The one thing I'll say there is when we're cooking with oils, right, our healthy fat, it's really essential that we use appropriate oils for cooking. Okay? Because there's something called a smoke point, and if we raise an oil above its smoke point, we're going to create trans fats in that process, actually. So olive oil, I tend to use that for more cold dishes, actually, for tossing. I'll actually use the saturated fat for the pan, personally, because those tend to have a higher smoke point, and that relates more to, again, the chemistry of it. Which I can dive into, I don't know, and who wants to see the chemistry of fat or discuss it? Yes? Yes?
Go for it.
All right, you guys
Cool.
are coming along. So does anyone know exactly what a saturated fat is? What makes it saturated? Right. Yes, yeah. Do you know exactly, like, could you say even specifically?
The number?
No, because that'll vary, Yeah, I feel like it's on my slide here. I'll quit picking on it. Okay, so when we look at fats, we're really looking at fatty acids, right? Fats are a combination of fatty acids, particularly a triglyceride. All right, so if we look at a triglyceride, that's a combination of 3 fatty acids, the tri, and then a glycerol molecule, which is a slightly different form of a sucrose or a glucose type molecule. A little different, but very similar. There are different types of fatty acids out there. There are a lot of different fatty acids. In fact, I know you know that there are different fatty acids because you hear about one all the time, constantly. You even know its chemical name.
Omega-3.
There it is. Thank you. We've all heard of omega-3 fatty acids, right? So an omega-3 is a monounsaturated fatty acid, and particularly if you look at the acid molecule of it, which is just a chain of carbons, in the third spot of that carbon molecule, there isn't a hydrogen atom. So it becomes monounsaturated at that point, right? That's all it is. So 1, 2, 3 carbons over, monounsaturated. The other one that we hear a lot about, or usually it's in a poly form, right?
Omega-6.
Yes, thank you. So omega-6, so if we travel 6 carbons down, then we hit the 6th one down, that one is missing a hydrogen atom. So if it's poly, there'll be like there'll be 2 or more hydrogens that are pulled off, and there's just a double carbon bond. If it's a monounsaturated fat, it's going to be simply at that 3rd carbon. There's only 1 hydrogen atom that's missing. That's literally it. It's the only difference between a poly, a mono, and unsaturated. Now there's different biological milieus that occur from these, but I think by just saying that something is saturated or unsaturated, that it then becomes healthy or unhealthy. Because there's actually different carbon lengths, especially when we get to saturated fats, and how they relate to the body and how they're utilized. So like this saturated fat is going to be different than butter, the saturated fat in it, and that's going to be different than Crisco, drastically different. So I don't like blanketing saturated fats into an unhealthy category. The really popular saturated fat that's all over everyone's diet, and you guys probably know it. Okay. It's tropical. Yeah, right? So coconut oil is like taking the health storm, if they will. Like, how many questions do you guys get on coconut oil? Do you get any of those? No? They just say, no, you're a trainer.
It is everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, right? And what they talk about, it's a saturated fat, but they also call it a medium chain triglyceride. So what that just relates to is how many carbons are there on that fatty acid. And that it's not a very long carbon chain. And so that brings in a whole other milieu of biological processes there, which are apparently good for us. Right? I won't go into that, try to keep it a little more shallow. But simply classifying fats by saturated, unsaturated, and then deeming them healthy or unhealthy is far too simplistic in my mind. And we're starting to realize that now. People are catching up with that. So there's all kinds of take-home points with it. That's the main one I want you guys to really think about. Corn, right? It's a poly, and it's an omega-6, right? When cows eat corn, then their products and their meat contains omega-6. So that right there is a big reason why, yes, I'm a fan. Like, so you can have organic. I'm not going to go too far into that. But you can also have grass-fed. They're not necessarily the same terms. So that's something I want you guys to think about as well, right? Because there's organic dairy products out there. What does that mean? Could be organic corn they're being fed, right? So, I think that's enough on fats. Minerals, fun stuff. You know, yeah, go ahead and click. We kind of talked about that. They're coenzymes. This is an awesome book. I would strongly urge you guys to look into Vitamania. You know, the big thing that I have to say in regards to this is that, one, vitamins really they've only been discovered or really acknowledged for the last 40 years, 50 years at best, right? We've just got into the process of actually synthesizing them. There are 3 things you'll want to know. There are the RDAs, the DRAs, the DRIs, and the ADLs, right? So what that is recommended dietary allowance, dietary recommended allowance, or the adequate intake. Okay? Those are very nebulous terms because we still don't even know exactly. We know what the minimum dose is to prevent disease, right? That was kind of the big take home I was trying to drive with the coenzyme, right? If we're deficient in these products, we can't facilitate those enzymatic processes. So I'll say a lack of them is going to cause a health problem. However, a mega dose of them, we have no idea what that it's not gonna make things, you're not gonna like accelerate the enzyme. Once the enzyme's full, it's full. That's it. If anything, you're just creating really expensive urine. Actually, in the best case scenario, that's it, really. Yeah.
So the pills, the vitamin pills, multivitamin pills, my wife makes me take. Are they useful at all? Do they help at all? It works both ways, right? So
I don't want you to get in a fight with your wife. Don't want you to get in a fight with your wife. Yeah.
Context.
I would say, I mean, if you look at epidemiological, or not even epidemiological, what's the other word I'm looking for? Not anecdotal, empirical evidence, right? There's no empirical evidence to suggest that a multivitamin does anything. Plain and simple. There's not been any research to say that it prevents any sort of disease state, that it does anything. Just so you know.
But when you go to a doctor, that's what this is, multivitamins.
Do it, so yeah.
Depending on the form of the multivitamin, if the binders are strong enough, they have found massive quantities of completely undigested multivitamins in sewage systems.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you put it in either a glass of vinegar or a glass of water, I should say vinegar because it more stimulates stomach acid, and it doesn't dissolve, you're probably not dissolving it in your body.
Oh, nice, nice. The only thing I'd wonder too is you'd want to add a base solution to that as well, because that's the whole purpose of bile, essentially, right? Our stomach is very acidic, so it breaks it down one way, and then we apply bile and pancreatic enzymes as well that are very basic. So we kind of hit it on both ends. Really, we go very acidic and we go very basic in the hopes of really trying to demolish those types of things. But I do agree very much with you. The chelation of vitamins is very important because really these vitamins, they exist in a realm that doesn't contain products that are not listed on the bottle. Both of those things are very important. We don't want to be taking something we don't think we are, especially if we're taking medications, because let's face it, our clients do tend to have a lot of other medications that they're on that often vitamins can interfere with the interactions of those medications. Very serious. So it's a very convoluted realm. I personally don't take any. The only thing I take is vitamin D because of where we live. And that's it. That's the only supplement, and some protein from time to time, and that's my own personal choice. So all of you will find what sits best with you and what you think works best.
So is there a good resource on what are the natural ways of getting the same vitamins?
Oh man, that is a good question. You know, my favorite, actually, I'll give it to Oregon State for this. Right? They have an excellent nutrition department, and if you go onto the Linus Pauling Institute, it's open source for anyone. It will give you all of the information about all the micronutrients and sources for them. So everything I've talked about and even well beyond that, they will provide to you. So really, in fact, I always go to that to look for information about vitamins, minerals. They do some stuff with macronutrients, but for whatever reason, that lab has really emphasized micronutrient metabolism. Linus Pauling. So Linus, and then Paul with an ing. Yeah, great resource. I don't know how I came across that, but I love it. It's really awesome when it comes to vitamins and minerals.
Since we're kind of on the supplement talk too, have part of the fat segment a little bit, so backtracking a little bit, in regards to fish oil tablets.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Curious about those? Man, so like the whole reason why why do we like fish oils? Actually, I'll ask that. I want to put that out to you guys. Why are fish oils awesome?
Supposed to be good for your brain and your heart.
And cholesterol, of course. Cholesterol
Right.
is the wine.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's also an antioxidant, right? Or it is an antioxidant. I'll say that. Omega-3s are an antioxidant, right? Because we have that hydrogen available for a donor site, or an electron for that matter. The problem is, unfortunately, in the gel forms, they're finding a lot of times that they are in fact oxidized by the time it gets to you. So then we've possibly changed the form of what it is. And then the bioavailability, like does that gel cap dissolve, is another question as well. So how long has it been sitting on the shelf? How was it manufactured? All that. Personally, I mean, we live in the Pacific Northwest. We're very fortunate to be where we are. There's tons of fish and at a relatively good price and of great quality. So that's where I urge people to acquire. If you were in like Nebraska or something, then I might urge you to look in some of those forms. But again, look for that GMP. Really.
So I currently take just the gel caps fish oil, but a friend of mine recently told me that I should try fermented cod liver oil to get my fish oil. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fermented cod liver.
You like fish breath?
See, and she said that it comes in like flavors now, so that you don't get the
Mask
fish,
it?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it comes in like different flavors, so that you can not get the fish breath. But it sounds gross.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work, I think, in the long run. And I mean, it's added expense, right? Supplements aren't cheap.
But is there like the assimilation of it in your body? Is there like a difference between
Cod liver.
taking the just gel caps and the fermented? I don't know if you know if there's.
Yeah, I'd have to know. I'd have to look at it. How is it fermented? Like, what's the fermentation process? That would be something I would be asking too. Because if it's fermented, then it's sat out for a considerable amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And some other organism is then also metabolizing it to some extent.